The US Army is one of the most technologically advanced armies in the world, but they're also one of the cheapest armies in the world. So for some reason, the US Army thought it'd be a great idea to use free Russian software with their new applications. But before we even dig into that, you need some context. The US Army has been trying to develop applications to help soldiers with their training and give them some useful resources. More specifically, it's called Army TRADOC, Army Training and Doctrine. So whenever soldiers go to basic training or they're involved with training centers, that's Army TRADOC. So all of this makes sense. Why not give applications to soldiers to help better themselves? But here's where everything falls apart in typical Army fashion. There's something out there in the Army called NTC, the National Training Center. And TRADOC had already developed an application specifically for NTC soldiers or soldiers going to NTC. And some of you are probably starting to realize what the issue is. A large portion of the coding specific to this application was fabricated and developed by the Russians. But that's not even the most annoying part of the story. What's annoying is that the US Army went all military grade on this specific software. They used the free version of what's called Pushwood to develop their own applications. And typically when you think of military grade, you think of physical items, but now we are starting to use military grade in the cyberspace. Now, the major concern from the US Army, data can be taken and tracked of US Army soldiers by the Russians. Because look, at the end of the day, most applications are tracking everywhere you go, and a lot of applications sell your data. And the US Special Forces have been called out on doing the exact same thing. US Special Forces Command is known for buying and tracking data in the Muslim world to maybe and potentially track high-value targets. Another thing we have to realize, more specifically at NTC, this is where soldiers go to train before their deployments. Which means if the US Army tries to say this specific group of soldiers is deploying to A, they actually might end up in B, and Russia will already know where they're going. But again, I want to reiterate that there is no hard evidence that Russia is tracking where soldiers are going, based off the fact that the US Army decided to use free Russian software to program their applications. Now, the US Army has had countless issues within the last few years of trying to develop their own applications. And the US Army knows that Russia and China, it's no secret that they are way more developed when it comes to cybersecurity than the United States. I mean, Russia and China have dedicated schools for young kids to learn how to hack and learn cybersecurity operations. So using Pushwoosh, probably not the best idea for the US Army. So yeah, leave your comments and opinions below. I'm curious to hear what you guys think.